You wake up as usual. Everything feels familiar. Your bed, the walls, the window. But after a few minutes, you sense that something is off. Subtle, barely noticeable. But the world has changed. You walk down the street and suddenly catch yourself thinking, was that building always here? Didn't it look different? You greet your neighbor and he looks at you coldly, distantly, as if he doesn't recognize you. And you feel it in your gut. He's different. You return home and look for an old book, but you can't find it. You remember reading a line as a child, "Go where no man has gone before." But now the book says something else. Go where no footprints remain. You're certain it's not your memory failing. It's something about reality itself. You go online and realize you're not alone. Millions of people recall things that, according to official facts, never existed. Australia has moved on the map. Now it's lower than you remember. In Star Wars, Darth Vader no longer says, "Luke, I am your father." Now the line is, "No, I am your father." Brand logos, childhood quotes, movie scenes, it's as if they've been rewritten. But you remember them differently, just like millions of others. They call it the Mandela Effect, a phenomenon where large groups of people misremember the same events. But let's be honest. What if it's not a mistake? What if it's a glitch, or a sign, that you've already shifted into a different version of the world? When you choose the white shirt instead of the black one, nothing seems to happen. But look deeper. Maybe that's the moment the split occurred. You walked one path where you chose white, but somewhere else your double chose black, and his day unfolded differently. This isn't science fiction. It's the multiverse theory, one of the most discussed topics in modern physics. Back in the mid-20th century, physicist Hugh Everett proposed a hypothesis. Every quantum event creates a new universe. That means every choice you make already lives in an alternate reality. You went right, but in another version, you went left. You stayed with someone, but elsewhere, you left. You chose silence, but in another thread, you spoke the words that changed everything. Scientists still debate whether these worlds can be proven. But here's the paradox. You are the proof. Random coincidences. People you've never met, but somehow feel like you know. Places you've never been, but feel like you've already lived in. It's not just a feeling. It might be a memory from another version of you. The one who took a different road. Have you ever felt like it already happened? Something tells you, don't go there. Even though logically everything seems fine. Or suddenly, your heart starts pounding before a choice. Maybe these are echoes from other worlds where you already know how it ends. I want to share my story. This isn't a theory. It's not fiction. It happened to me. I was 12 years old. We were coming back from the circus. A normal day. A normal tram. I was sitting next to my parents. And suddenly, a thought came to me. But it felt like it wasn't from inside me. It came from somewhere else. I turned to my dad and asked, "Can a tram come off the tracks?" He looked at me a bit surprised, but said nothing. Less than a minute later, our tram derailed. We stopped. People started panicking. They moved us into a bus. And my dad said, "Don't ever talk about transport again." I'll never forget that moment. I was a child, but I felt it. Something inside me knows things before they happen. From that day, I began to track those thoughts. I wondered, where do they come from? Why do I feel things before they occur? Now, as an adult, I realize it's not just intuition. It's a subtle link to another level of reality, where everything has already happened. And I'm just receiving the signal. Since then, I've paid more attention to signs, to sensations you can't explain with logic, to moments when I just knew. It's not magic. It's not supernatural. It's something hidden deep within us. We just don't always notice. The world is not as simple as it seems, and the version of you that you call alternate, it never disappears. It keeps existing as a parallel script where you made a different choice, spoke a different word, walked a different path, and every time you sleep, you might end up there. Sleep isn't rest, it's a portal. Deja vu isn't a glitch. It's a message. You've seen this scene before, but not here. In another branch. Another layer. Some people can jump between them consciously. They call it out-of-body experience with high-level focus. Or they don't call it anything and they just live between the worlds. They feel the softness of reality. Its flexibility. Their thoughts are keys. And their dreams are instructions. Those who become aware start noticing the weirdness. Random phrases spoken exactly as in their dreams. Familiar strangers. Objects that appear and vanish. Inner knowledge that feels like it comes from another version of you. And maybe it does. It's you, one of you, who walked a slightly different road and now is shouting from the neighboring reality. Look, notice, wake up. And in that moment you begin to understand. You're not just observing. You can choose. You can shift. You can jump. There are moments when you don't just feel that something's wrong, you feel like you're inside the crack itself. You step outside and the noise isn't right. People move a little differently. The air smells unfamiliar. As if you're not in your own city, even though everything looks the same. You walk into your favorite cafe, and suddenly your favorite drink is no longer on the menu. You argue with the barista, saying you've had it here 100 times, but she looks at you blankly and replies, "We've never had that." You go into your room and notice that some objects have been moved, even though you're certain you didn't touch anything. Not like something completely disappeared, but as if the world has bent, slightly, by a millimeter, and in that millimeter, everything became different. You hear a phrase you're sure you've heard before, but not from this person and not in this situation. You start to realize something has overlapped. The world you're in now is not the one you fell asleep in last night. It's like you woke up one step to the side and almost everything matches, but not everything. It's a glitch, a slide, or a portal that you crossed without knowing. Between you and another you. Between what was and what became. Between what was possible and what is. And if you begin to track these shifts, you'll notice. They happen right before major crossroads in life. Before a decision, before a turning point, before a meeting. As if the matrix is reshaping itself, adjusting the world to match your inner energy. And if you stop clinging to the old version of reality, you'll be able to move further than the rest. Sometimes, you slip onto someone else's path through the wrong choice. Through fear, through abandoning yourself. You settle for a compromise. And suddenly, you wake up in a world that's not yours. Where is your true path? One of millions of versions. And if you feel this is not my reality, then somewhere you turned the wrong way. There are signs you're not living on your line. You're constantly tired. People around you seem like they can't hear you. Events repeat in circles. You feel like you've forgotten who you are. That's not depression. It's disconnection from your true flow. You've entered someone else's simulation. The program keeps running, but not for your benefit. And here's the main question. Can you return to your line? Yes. But to do that, you must remember who you were before the glitch. Remember where you betrayed yourself. Remember where you chose out of fear instead of freedom. When you return to resonance, reality begins to rebuild itself. Random encounters, new roads, signs, déjà vu. Everything returns to its proper place. You feel it. I'm home again, inside myself. There are moments when you feel like you're living two lives at once, like one version of you is walking right and the other left. One gets angry, the other stays silent. One wants to leave, the other stays. You don't notice this in the rush of the day, but at night, on the edge of sleep, you hear the echo of yourself. You feel like your double is nearby, not in the mirror, somewhere close, in another timeline. You get one job and then receive a strange email for another position, one you supposedly applied for, but don't remember doing so. You decide to break up, and a few days later, you dream of being with that same person, but in a different apartment, with children. That never happened here, but it did there. This isn't a glitch, it's a split. Because your soul doesn't always choose just one path right away. It launches multiple timelines and waits to see which one will take root. Sometimes you feel that split physically, a heavy pressure on your chest, sudden dizziness, a sense that you're not really here right now. You catch yourself thinking, I've already been in this moment. But now, it's different. It's an overlap of two versions of you. One will dissolve, the other will remain. But you carry the memory of both, even if you can't explain it in words. Sometimes you're sure it was your decision. You sat, you thought, you chose, you postponed a meeting, you wrote a message, you bought a ticket or didn't. But then something doesn't add up. You can't explain why you did it. You knew you shouldn't. You felt it was wrong. And still, you did it. And then, it's like a rewind, like someone hit back. And you're in the same spot again, but with a different feeling. And suddenly, a thought comes. Maybe it wasn't you who made that choice. Maybe your other version did. In a parallel reality, you chose differently, and now you're feeling the consequences of that other choice, which, strangely, was also yours. You couldn't fall asleep even though you were exhausted. You suddenly turned around while driving without any reason. You went on a trip, and an hour later saw news of an incident where you were headed. What is that? That's a moment when realities overlap, when the choice of another version affects yours. You can feel it inside, two voices. One says, go. The other, stop. This isn't just indecision. It's resonance between worlds, between two versions of you. And in that moment, it's not the one in this body who wins, but the one on the other side. When you lose control, another version of you might take over, the one that chose a different fate, the one that made a wrong turn, but is still connected to you. Sometimes it feels like an eclipse. You act, but like in a dream. You speak, but don't hear yourself. You just follow the tracks, even though deep inside, a voice screams, this isn't my path. Stop. Say your name out loud. Say, this is my choice. This is my life. Feel how the energy returns, as if you unplugged from another outlet and reconnected to your core. Every conscious action is an anchor in your own reality, and the more anchors you plant, the less you drift. We live in a world where thousands of versions of us compete for the lead role, but only the one who wakes up gets the right to be the director. The system tells you you must choose one path, one career, one person, one life, and if you mess up, you've lost. But that's a lie. You don't live in a linear reality. You are multidimensional. Every choice you make launches a new branch, a new world, a new possibility. You're not trapped in one destiny. You don't have to be the person they remember. You are code, and code can be rewritten. Just ask yourself, who would I be if I wasn't afraid? And let that question open a door, not out there, but within. Thank you for staying with me till the end. You're not just watching, you're feeling. You know how to see deeper, and that's why you're here. Thank you for your attention, for your trust, for seeking truth with me. Your presence matters. Your path is unique, and that means everything is just beginning. See you in the next video. Take care of yourself.